I had always considered myself a quiet gimor, of an observer than a participant. College was my chance to finally escape the small town where everyone knew your name, your business. But it didn't take long to realize that even here, people still measured you by what you had. It wasn't like I cared about what others thought of me. I was focused on getting my degree, studying business, and learning how to make something of myself. But then there was Chloe Matthews. Chloe wasn't like the other people I'd met at college. She had a way of making everything seem effortless. She was outgoing, always at the center of the crowd, and she was smart, way smarter than most people realized. Or at least, that's how she made it look. "Tyler, you have to come with me to this party tonight," Chloe said one afternoon, looking over her shoulder as she adjusted the straps of her backpack. "It's going to be epic, all the right people are going to be there. This is your chance to get in with the big shots." I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "I'm good, Chloe. I've got a paper to finish for economics." "Ugh, you're so boring." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "You can't just study all the time. You need to network, Tyler. You think those business people got to the top just by being smart? No, they made connections. They showed up, and they played the game." It was always like this with Chloe She, who was always pushing for more, always chasing something. And it wasn't just about being successful. It was about being the best, standing out, having more than everyone else. She wasn't just looking for the right connections. She was looking for the right connections to give her power. I leaned back in my chair, trying to focus on the textbook in front of me. "I'm not really into the whole networking thing. Chloe, I don't want to just be known for knowing the right people." She raised an eyebrow, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "You say that now, but trust me. Tyler, you'll change your mind when you realize how much easier life is when you're connected to the right people." I couldn't deny that there was some truth to what she said. The people who were at the top in any field weren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They were the ones who knew the right people, but I wasn't sure I wanted to play that game. Later that week, I found myself at one of those parties Chloe had dragged me to. The music was too loud, and the air smelled like cheap cologne mixed with alcohol. Everyone was talking about business ventures, internships, and future career prospects. Chloe was in her element, moving from one group to the next, laughing, and making everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. "Tyler, come here." Chloe waved me over from the corner of the room, her smile wide and bright. "Meet Jordan. He's got connections with some of the best firms in New York. He's going to make it big." I shook the hand of a guy named Jordan, who had a smug grin plastered on his face. I didn't know him, but the way Chloe was speaking, you would have thought he was a celebrity. "Nice to meet you," I said, trying to mask my awkwardness. Jordan barely acknowledged me before turning back to Chloe. "So Chloe, when are you going to make your move? You've got what it takes. You just need the right push." Chloe laughed, her eyes glinting with ambition. "Oh, don't worry. I'm already planning my next big step. I'll be at the top in no time." I stood there for a moment, feeling like an outsider. Here I was, surrounded by people who only cared about who they knew and what they could gain. Chloe was at the heart of it all, and the way she spoke made me think she'd already made her decision. She was playing the game, and playing it well. As the night went on, I noticed how easily Chloe maneuvered between groups. She always knew the right thing to say, always knew how to make people like her. But the more I watched, the more I started to feel like I was seeing a different side of her. Chloe wasn't just confident, she was calculating. That everything she did, every word she said, had a purpose. She was always positioning herself, always thinking 2 steps ahead. I couldn't help but admire her, at least. A part of me did. There was no denying that Chloe had something most people didn't, an undeniable drive to succeed, to be better than everyone else. But there was also something else beneath the surface, something that made me uneasy. It was as if Chloe didn't just want to succeed. She wanted to win at any cost. Graduation day was a blur of shaking hands, polite smiles, and that strange sense of finality that came with leaving behind everything familiar. I remember standing in the middle of the ceremony, listening to the dean's speech, but my mind kept drifting. The whole world felt like it was waiting for me, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. Chloe, on the other hand, seemed like she had it all figured out. She was already talking about the next big thing, the next step she was going to take, while I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay my bills and start my career. She was out there networking, rubbing elbows with people who could help her climb higher. "You've got to come to this gala next week," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. "All the right people will be there: investors, executives, people who matter. This is your chance, Tyler. You've got to be in the right circles if you want to make it." "I don't know, Chloe," I replied, running my fingers through my hair. "I'm not sure that's how I want to do it. I'd rather start small, build something of my own." She smirked almost dismissively. "You'll see. It's not about what you want. It's about what gets you results. You're not going to get anywhere just sitting back." It was a pattern I was starting to notice. Chloe was all about fast success, the kind that didn't waste any time on struggle or failure. And it wasn't just that she was ambitious. She was fixated on wealth, status, and the people who could give her what she wanted. I decided to go my own route. I found a job at a small startup, learning the ropes of business from the ground up. It wasn't glamorous, and the hours were brutal, but it felt right. I had always believed in working hard, staying focused, and earning my way up, no matter how long it took. But with Chloe, things were moving at lightning speed. She landed a high-paying job at a marketing firm almost immediately. She didn't waste time with small businesses. She was already targeting the top-tier companies, the ones that could launch her career. Every time we spoke, it seemed like she was climbing faster than I was. She'd tell me about the parties she went to, the people she was meeting, the deals she was making. Meanwhile, I was working late nights, staring at spreadsheets, trying to figure out how to make my mark. "Tyler, you really need to get with the program," Chloe said one afternoon, casually scrolling through her phone as we sat in the coffee shop. "I've got a friend at a hedge fund who could help you if you're serious about making some real money. I could introduce you. It's all about the right connections." I looked down at my coffee, unsure of what to say. "I'm good, Chloe. I'm not really looking for shortcuts. I want to build something from the ground up, She laughed, a little too loudly for my liking. "Shortcuts? Tyler, it's not about shortcuts. It's about smart decisions. You've got to play the game." I could hear the impatience in her voice, the subtle hint of judgment. Chloe was already operating in a different world, one where the rules were about who you knew, not what you could do. But the more she talked about it, the more I started to wonder, was I doing this all wrong? Maybe she had a point. Maybe it wasn't enough to just work hard anymore. Maybe connections really were everything. Still, I couldn't bring myself to go down the same path. As tempting as it was to follow Chloe's lead, I wasn't ready to trade my values for the fast lane to success. But as weeks passed, I started to see just how far Chloe was willing to go. She wasn't just ambitious anymore. She was obsessed. Every conversation we had seemed to center around her next big deal, her next connection, her next move up the ladder. There was no time for anything else. I could tell she was starting to drift further from the person I had once known. She wasn't just focused on success anymore. She was addicted to it. It wasn't about building something meaningful. It was about having something, anything, that could make her stand out. One evening, she texted me, asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I agreed, hoping we could talk and catch up. But when we met at the restaurant, it was clear that Chloe was already distracted, her mind somewhere else. "You okay?" I asked, watching her fiddle with her phone. She glanced up briefly, a fake smile on her face. "Yeah, just checking on a deal I'm working on." "You know how it is, busy?" I nodded, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. Chloe was no longer the person I used to admire. She had become someone who lived for the next big thing, the next opportunity, the next prize. "I've got to go," she said suddenly, standing up before I could say anything. "Big meeting in the morning. Let's talk soon, okay?" I watched her walk out of the restaurant, her figure disappearing into the night. A part of me wanted to chase after her, to ask what had happened to the Chloe I used to know. But deep down, I knew she was gone. And what had replaced her was a version of Chloe I didn't recognize, one driven by something darker than ambitions, someone who would stop at nothing to get ahead. I sat there for a while, staring at the empty seat across from me, feeling more alone than I ever had before. I remember the first day at the startup, walking into the office with nothing but a small desk, a laptop, and a big dream. The place was a mess, cluttered with ideas and people working around the clock. It was chaotic, but that was the beauty of it. I didn't need the corporate gloss. I just needed the chance to prove myself. "Hey, Tyler." Mark, one of the senior guys, waved me over. "You'll want to see this." It's the new project we're working on. I know you're the numbers guy. I smiled and nodded, still trying to hide my nervousness. This was it, my chance to climb up. Not by knowing the right people, but by being good at what I did. It's by working harder than anyone else. The first few months were grueling. Stayed late at the office, working on anything I could get my hands on, asking questions, taking notes, learning everything. I'd come home exhausted, my head spinning with ideas, but I loved it. I loved that I was doing something for myself, building something real, even if it wasn't glamorous. But then there was Chloe. "Hey, Tyler." Chloe's voice came through the phone one afternoon. "I just got back from a private yacht party. You should have seen it, celebrities everywhere. I met some pretty big people. You'd love it here." I tried to keep the edge out of my voice. "Sounds like fun. How's everything going?" She laughed. "Oh, just living the life. I got that promotion I was telling you about last week. They bumped me up to senior marketing manager. Not a big deal. I could have had this position a lot sooner, but I'm just waiting for the next big move." There it was again. The way Chloe's life seemed to be speeding ahead while I was just putting in hours. She didn't have to struggle. She didn't have to grind the way I did, and that stung. I knew she was proud of herself, and rightfully so. She'd worked hard for her success. But there was something about her casual bragging that didn't sit well with me. "I'm happy for you," I said, trying to keep the tone neutral. "Sounds like things are really taking off. You should come visit sometime," she suggested, "and see how the other half lives. I always said you'd be great in this world, Tyler. You just need to stop holding back." I bit my lip, trying to suppress the frustration bubbling inside me. "I'm doing just fine, Chloe. One step at a time, right?" But she didn't hear me. Chloe was always about the big leap. She wanted to skip the hard parts and go straight to the top. And sometimes it felt like she thought I was holding myself back by not playing the same game. A few months passed, and things started to change. At work, my dedication began to pay off. I was promoted to a lead position on one of the projects, and my hard work was finally being recognized. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it was mine. I felt like I was actually moving toward something. But as I rose in the company, I started to notice Chloe's attitude shifting. She wasn't as supportive anymore. Instead of congratulating me on my promotion, she'd brush it off with a half-hearted comment. "So, I hear you've been making some moves over there," she said, the sarcasm clear in her voice. "I bet you're really proud of yourself." I wasn't sure what to make of it. "Yeah, it's going well. We've got some exciting stuff lined up. It's a challenge, but I like it." She let out a sigh, the kind that made me feel like I was a nuisance. "Well, that's great. But if you really wanted to do something impressive, you could join me in one of my projects. That's how you get noticed. You need to be surrounded by the right people. This startup stuff, it's cute, but it's not going to get you the respect you want." I was taken aback. "I'm doing fine, Chloe. I don't need to be around the right people to succeed. I'm building something real." But it was clear she wasn't hearing me. Chloe had always been about appearances, and now that I was starting to carve my own path, she didn't seem to like it. Maybe she thought I was too focused on the slow climb. Or maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel threatened. A few weeks later, we met up for coffee, and it felt different. Chloe was on her phone more than usual, constantly checking her messages, eyes scanning the room. It was like she wasn't even there. "So, what's the big news, Chloe?" I asked, trying to cut through the tension. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, just some things coming up with work, big projects. I've got people practically begging to work with me now. It's only a matter of time before I'm in a position where I can call the shots." I nodded, but something about the way she said it made me uneasy. There was no warmth in her words, no excitement for the work itself. Just cold ambition, like everything was a transaction. "You've come a long way," I said, trying to sound encouraging. "That's really impressive." Chloe looked at me, her expression hardening. "Yeah, well, it's more than just impressive, Tyler. You've got to know the right people, play your cards right. You're still stuck in that little bubble you created for yourself." I didn't say anything for a moment, the weight of her words hanging in the air. I thought about the long nights, the endless work, the sacrifices I was making. Was I still just a little bubble? "I'm not stuck, Chloe," I finally replied, my voice steady. "I'm building something real. It may take longer, but I'm in control. I don't need to chase the next big thing." She scoffed, setting her coffee cup down with a clink. "Yeah, well, keep telling yourself that." But don't come crying to me when you realize how much you've missed by waiting around. It was then that I understood. Chloe wasn't just jealous. She was afraid. She was afraid of being left behind. The more I succeeded, the more it seemed to rattle her. I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but one thing was certain: I wasn't going to stop. I had come too far to let anything or anyone stop me now. It was hard to ignore how quickly things were moving. My career was growing, and every day felt like a new challenge, a new opportunity to prove myself. I had put in the work, and it was paying off. But Chloe was always there, like a shadow, lingering at the edge of everything. "Tyler, I need your help." Chloe's voice came through the phone one evening. Her tone was urgent, but there was something about it that made me pause. "What's going on?" I asked, pushing the papers on my desk aside to focus. "I'm starting this new marketing venture.
Action.
I've got investors lined up, but I need some extra capital to get things off the ground. I know you've got the skills, and honestly, I could really use your expertise." She paused. "And I'd love for you to be a part of it." I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. I hadn't expected this, especially not from her. Chloe had always been independent, always the one making moves without asking anyone for help. But now, she was asking for me to invest in her project, something that felt like it came out of nowhere. "What kind of venture are we talking about?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "Oh, just a little marketing agency. I've already got the groundwork laid out. We're going to work with some pretty big clients. You know, the kind, corporate giants. I just need the funds to get started. Plus, I trust you, Tyler. I know you'd help me make it work." I thought for a moment, running the numbers in my head. It was tempting, no doubt. Chloe was smart, and her projects usually turned a profit. But there was a gut feeling gnawing at me, something that told me this wasn't just about the business. It never was with her. "Look, I'll think about it," I said, "but it's a big decision. I don't want to rush into anything." She was silent for a moment before responding, and when she spoke again, her tone was softer, almost pleading. "I get it. I don't want you to feel pressured. But you know how important this is. If you help me, we'll both benefit. It's not just about the money, it's about partnership, trust. We'll make it work together, like we always used to. You're the best at what you do, Tyler. I wouldn't ask if I didn't think you were the right person." The words hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't sure if it was the sincerity in her voice or the weight of her flattery, but I could feel my resolve weakening. Chloe had always known how to play her cards, how to make people feel important, like they were part of something bigger. "I'll let you know soon," I said, trying to keep things casual. "Take your time," she replied, her voice light again, like she was already plotting her next move. "But remember, I'm counting on you. You're the one who can make this happen." I hung up, feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease. She had a way of making everything sound so effortless, so natural. But was it really as simple as she made it seem? Was I being manipulated, or was this a legitimate opportunity? The days passed, and the idea of investing in her business kept bouncing around in my mind. Chloe's calls were constant, each one making the venture sound more enticing than the last. She'd send me emails with projections, ideas, and promises of future success, but something didn't sit right with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about business, it was personal. Chloe was starting to look at me as an asset, not a friend. I tried to talk to her about it. "Chloe, I've been thinking about your project," I said one afternoon when we met for coffee. "It's ambitious, but I don't know. I just don't feel right about jumping in without doing more research." She smiled, that smile she always used when she knew she had the upper hand. "You don't trust me, Tyler? I thought we were friends. I thought you believed in me." Her eyes locked with mine, and for a second I felt a rush of guilt. "No, it's not that," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You're overthinking it," she interrupted, her voice turning soft again, almost coaxing. "It's not like we're strangers. You've seen what I can do. We're in this together. Think about how much we could achieve." I opened my mouth to argue, but she cut me off once more. I've already got half the funding from my connections. You're the final piece, Tyler. Just a little push, and we'll be unstoppable." Her eyes never left mine, and for a moment I felt as if she had cornered me. Was I really about to let this slide? Was I really considering going along with this, despite the nagging doubts in my mind? But then it happened. She crossed the line. "Look, if you don't invest, maybe we should just part ways." "I can't keep dragging you along if you don't believe in what I'm doing," Chloe said, her voice suddenly cold. I've helped you in the past, Tyler. I've always had your back. But maybe it's time you helped me, don't you think? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at her, my mind spinning. It wasn't just about the business anymore. Chloe was trying to manipulate McGill, tripping me into something I wasn't comfortable with. I stood up, pushing my chair back sharply. You know what? I think I'm done here. Chloe's smile faltered for just a second, but she quickly regained her composure. Fine, you're not the right person for this then. Or I guess I'll just have to find someone else. I didn't say anything else. I left the coffee shop, my mind reeling. I had always known Chloe could be manipulative, but this was crossing a line. She wasn't just asking for my help anymore. She was using our friendship to get what she wanted. And I was done. I never imagined it would come to this, being back in the office, staring at my screen, and realizing that something had gone terribly wrong. It all started with the merger deal I'd been working on for months. It was big, like life-changing big. I'd put everything into it: long nights, endless calls, emails, meetings. I was so close to sealing it when I got a call from Chloe. Tyler, you have to see this, Chloe said, her voice dripping with excitement. I've got a new opportunity, something that could skyrocket my career. But I need your help with a few details. I hesitated for a moment. Chloe, I've got this deal to close. It's huge. I know. But this could make you so much more money, Tyler. I've already got most of the groundwork done. You're practically there. Just a little nudge, and we're golden. I should have known right then. Should have known that Chloe always had something else in mind. But I trusted her. She was my friend, after all. Hey. So, I agreed to meet her at the office the next day. I walked into the office, my mind still preoccupied with the merger. But when I saw Chloe sitting across from me, her posture perfect, her smile a little too wide, something about the whole scene felt off. All right, what's this about? I asked, sitting down across from her. Here's the thing, she began, laying out a set of papers in front of me. This new opportunity, it's perfect. I've been talking to a few people and they're all on board. But you need to take this to the higher ups, get the green light, and fast. This could change everything for both of us. I looked at the papers. A few names I recognized, but nothing that screamed game changer. Still, I could see how she was building it up, and for a second, I felt that old spark of ambition rise in me. But then something in her tone caught me off guard. You've been working so hard for this deal. Tyler, I can't help but think you've been missing out on the real opportunities. I froze. The words sounded casual, but they were anything but. I wasn't stupid. Chloe was always good at making things seem like your idea, like she was doing you a favor. But this felt different. Something in her voice made me question her motives. I pushed the feeling aside. Not missing anything, Chloe. I've got this under control. The merger's nearly done. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and then with a quick flick of her hand, she grabbed the papers and stood up. Don't be naive, Tyler. The deal you're working on, it's not what it seems. They've been toying with you. It's already falling apart. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? You trust people too much, she cut in, her voice suddenly colder, sharper. It's cute, really. But you're in over your head, that merger. It's already been sabotaged by your own team. My heart was pounding now. Felt my face flush, my thoughts racing. Was she joking? Was she really telling me this? You're lying, I said, my voice strained. I'm not, Chloe said, almost too calmly. Been talking to some people who have inside knowledge? You're just another pawn to them, Tyler? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Who the hell are you to come in here and... But before I could finish, Chloe's face softened, the warmth returning. Tyler, calm down. I'm just trying to help. You don't have to keep fighting this. If you'll let me help you with this project, we could both come out on top. It's what you deserve. I was silent, my heart racing. What was I supposed to believe? Chloe was my friend, right? She'd always been there, pushing me, encouraging me. But now she was telling me that my entire career had been manipulated? And then, like a slap in the face, I realized the truth. This wasn't just business for Chloe. It had never been just about success or opportunity. It was always about power. She had used me, used my trust, my work to get ahead. Now she was trying to destroy everything I'd worked for. I stared at her, my mouth dry. You did this, I whispered. You sabotaged it. Chloe didn't flinch. I did what needed to be done. I'm not sorry, Tyler. You should thank me. I didn't know what to say. I was furious, heartbroken, and above all betrayed. The one person I thought I could trust, the one person who knew me better than anyone, had just destroyed everything I had worked for, and she didn't even care. I took a step back, my legs unsteady. I can't believe you. Believe it, Chloe replied, her voice cool. You've got a choice now, Tyler. You can fight for what's left of your little startup, or you can come work with me. But make up your mind quickly. Her words were like poison, but I didn't say anything. I just turned and walked out, my mind reeling. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? I sat in my car for what felt like hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The tears didn't come not yet, but I could feel the weight of the betrayal heavy in my chest. Chloe had crossed a line. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her for it. I could feel the weight of Chloe's betrayal pressing down on me, even as I sat alone in my apartment, trying to focus on the paperwork in front of me. The room felt smaller than usual, the walls closing in with every passing minute. It was like I couldn't breathe properly, like I was trapped in my own thoughts, suffocating under the realization of what had happened. How could she do this? After everything we'd been through, how could she just use me like that? I picked up my phone, staring at the blank screen, unsure of what to do with it. I should call someone, talk to someone, Ava maybe, or even Damien if I was desperate. But the truth was, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to know how badly I had fallen for it. The manipulation, the lies. It made me sick. I tossed the phone aside, running my hands through my hair in frustration. This wasn't just about a business deal. It was about trust, friendship, or at least that's what I thought it was. But now I didn't know what it was anymore. Chloe had broken something deep inside me, something I hadn't even known existed until it was shattered. Why did I trust her so much? I kicked the chair back and stood up, pacing around the room. The anger was bubbling up, but there was something else beneath it, something heavier. A mix of regret, disappointment, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Should have known better. I had always been so careful about who I trusted. With Chloe, it was different. She'd always been there encouraging me, making me feel like I wasn't alone in this world. She made me feel like I mattered, that I could be part of something big. And then, just like that, she ripped it all away. The sound of my phone buzzing broke my train of thought. Chloe's name flashed on the screen. I almost threw the phone across the room, but instead I hesitated. Maybe she had something to say. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd try to explain. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be that simple. I swiped to answer, keeping my voice calm. What do you want, Chloe? There was a pause on the other end, like she wasn't sure how to approach me. Tyler, listen, Don't! I cut her off. Don't even try to justify it. You know exactly what you did. I didn't mean for it to go down like that, she said, her voice softer than usual. I just know, Chloe, I interrupted again, my voice rising. You did mean it. You've been playing me this whole time. You used me to get ahead, and now that you're where you want to be, you're done with me. Tyler, that's not fair, she said, her tone defensive. You don't understand. No, I get it. You don't have to explain. I see it now. You were always looking for the next opportunity, the next person who could get you to where you wanted to be. And I stopped myself, shaking my head. I was stupid enough to believe in you. The silence on the other end was deafening. I couldn't hear her breathing, nothing. Thought she might hang up, but instead she spoke again, her voice softer this time, like she was trying to get me to listen. Tyler, please, you're making this worse. I couldn't even respond. What was there to say? What could I possibly say to make this any better? Chloe's betrayal wasn't just a professional failure. It felt personal. Look, you don't get it, I said, more to myself than to her. You don't get what you've done to me. I thought we were friends. I thought you respected me. I do respect you, Tyler. I always have, Chloe said, the sincerity in her voice almost convincing. He scoffed, pacing the room. You don't get to say that after everything. You don't get to pretend like this was just a business decision. You knew exactly what you were doing. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said, almost pleading now. I thought we could both benefit. You thought you could benefit, I snapped. You never cared about me, Chloe? You never cared about anything other than getting ahead? There was another long pause before she spoke again, her voice quieter this time. I didn't mean for it to end like this. You don't get it, I repeated. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I ended the call without another word, Sitting there in the silence that followed, I felt numb. The anger, the frustration, the betrayal was all still there. But beneath it, there was something deeper. A gnawing emptiness that I couldn't shake. I thought about how much I had believed in her, how much I had trusted her, how much I had sacrificed for the sake of our friendship, only to find out that she never saw me as anything more than a stepping stone. I felt vulnerable, exposed. I had given her a piece of me, and she had used it against me. Maybe that's what hurt the most, the realization that my vulnerability had been my greatest weakness. I had let myself believe in something, in someone, who didn't deserve it. And now I had to rebuild. Not just my career, but myself. I had to find a way to take all the pain and turn it into something stronger. Something that didn't involve trust, or friends, or letting people get too close. Because if there was one thing I'd learned, it was this. In the end, it's all just about survival. I couldn't stop thinking about what Chloe had done to me. I'd barely slept for days, my mind replaying every word, every lie she'd told, every move she'd made. I had been so blind, so trusting. Now it was time to make her pay. The office was quiet when I walked in the next morning, the usual hum of activity replaced by an eerie silence. I sat at my desk, staring at my laptop, but I wasn't really seeing anything. I was too busy running through my plan in my head. I'll show her. I'll show everyone that I can do this on my own, without anyone else's help, without Chloe. I opened a new document and started typing. The merger deal that had been sabotaged. I was going to bring it back. But this time, it wouldn't just be about the deal. It would be about making sure Chloe knew that her actions had consequences. My fingers flew over the keys as I typed out emails, made calls, set up meetings. I was relentless. Every day felt like an uphill battle, but the harder I worked, the more I felt my anger turning into something else. Something stronger. Each step I took, each connection I made, was a step toward proving myself. But it wasn't just about business. It was about revenge. About making Chloe realize that I wasn't the naive guy she had used and tossed aside. I was stronger now, smarter. I was in control. A few weeks later, I ran into her again. Of course, she didn't know about the steps I'd taken, about how. I was working with the very people who had been involved in that merger deal. I was moving in the right circles now, and I was starting to see results. Tyler. Chloe greeted me with that same smile, the one that always made her seem so sincere, so genuine. I didn't expect to see you here. How have you been? I barely managed to smile, knowing full well what she was up to. I've been better. What about you? Her eyes flickered for just a moment, and I could see the anxiety in them. She was pretending, of course, acting like everything was fine, but I could tell. I could always tell when she was faking it. I've been great, she said quickly. Busy, you know? Just wrapping up some big projects. Yeah, I've heard, I said, my voice cold. It seems like things are really moving for you. She seemed a little too eager to agree. Definitely. Things are going really well. The new marketing agency is starting to gain traction, and the people I'm working with are top tier. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. It's been amazing. So what about you? What's been keeping you busy? I smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was a smile of quiet satisfaction. I've been working on some new deals myself. Bigger ones. The merger. Turns out it wasn't as dead as you thought. She froze, the color draining from her face. I could see the realization hit her, and for a split second I saw her guard drop. She wasn't in control anymore. I was, and I was loving it. How? ... How did you manage to bring that back? Her voice was tight, but she tried to play it off. I thought the deal was off the table. Oh, it wasn't, I said casually. I've been working behind the scenes, building it back up. The right people got involved, and now it's moving forward again. Her eyes darted around, but she didn't say anything. There was nothing more she could say. She had betrayed me, and now I was the one who had the power. She was just another player in a game I was now winning. I guess you really are getting ahead, Chloe said, her voice tinged with bitterness. But it's a shame you didn't ask for my help. We could have been a team, Tyler. I raised an eyebrow, keeping my tone even. You've always wanted to be the one in control, Chloe. I'm not looking for a team. Doing this on my own. Her face tightened, and I could see the cracks starting to show. But she quickly masked it with another smile. Well, good luck. I hope it works out for you. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I had already won, and she knew it. She knew that I had turned everything she'd done to me into fuel for my success. She had thought she could use me, but it was her who had ended up being used. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I had crossed the line between anger and action, was no longer just the guy who was hurt. I was the guy who had taken control, who had rebuilt his life from the wreckage of betrayal. But deep down, there was something else too, a question that kept gnawing at me. Was this really revenge? I had started out wanting to get back at Chloe for what she did, but now it was bigger than that. It wasn't about Chloe anymore. It was about me. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above it, all without her. But was I letting the anger control me? Was I becoming the thing I had hated? I shook the thought away. For now, there was no going back. I had my sights set on the future, and nothing was going to stop me. It had been months since I walked away from Chloe and everything that had tied me down. My nights were still long, and the weight of what she'd done to me never fully left my mind, but I was moving forward. Finally, it was my time. I sat at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I looked at the figures on the screen. The business I'd started was beginning to show signs of life. It wasn't anything huge, not yet, but it was mine built from scratch. No shortcuts. I could feel the momentum building, the success that had seemed so far out of reach before now within my grasp. I leaned back in my chair, stretching as I checked the clock. It was late, but there was something exhilarating about working into the night, knowing that I was in control of my own destiny. I was no longer chasing after the approval of anyone, especially not Chloe, but just as I started to settle into the satisfaction of my work. My phone buzzed. It was Ava. "Hey, Tyler," she said when I picked up. "I heard the news. You're doing well, huh?" I smiled at the sound of her voice. "Yeah, things are going well. Finally starting to make it happen. It's amazing. You deserve it." I knew you'd get there, even after everything that happened with Chloe. A wave of gratitude washed over me. Ava had always been there, supporting me from the sidelines when I needed it most. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. It's been a hell of a ride, but I'm getting there, it feels like. I'm actually doing something right for the first time. "I'm so proud of you," she said, her tone warm and genuine. "Tyler, you've been working so hard. Have you thought about taking a break? Stepping back a bit and enjoying the win?" I chuckled softly. "I'll take a break when the company's running itself. For now, there's still work to be done." "You've got to let yourself live too, though. Look, I know you've been focused on getting revenge, on proving Chloe wrong. But I think you're starting to realize that it's not worth it, right?" Her words hit harder than I expected. I was quiet for a moment, contemplating what she said. She was right, in a way. The drive for revenge had pushed me forward, but it had also consumed me. "I don't know," I said slowly, running a hand through my hair. I thought that getting ahead, showing Chloe I could do it without her, that would make me feel better. But now it just feels empty. Ava was silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Tyler, you've always been better than that. You don't need Chloe's validation. What you're building right now is because of you, not because of her or anyone else." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. I had been so focused on proving Chloe wrong, on getting back at her for everything she'd done, that I hadn't stopped to ask myself why I was doing it. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. "You're right," I finally said. "I can't keep letting this thing with Chloe drive me. It's time to move on. Not just from her, but from all the anger and frustration. I can't let it define me." There was a pause before Ava spoke again, and when she did, it was with a sense of relief in her voice. "I'm glad to hear you say that. You deserve peace, Tyler. You deserve to build something you can be proud of, without carrying all that weight." Her words hit home. I had spent so much time holding on to that anger, using it as fuel to get ahead, but in the process, I'd neglected the one thing that mattered the most, my own happiness. I wasn't doing this to get back at Chloe anymore. I was doing it for me, for my future. "So, what's next for you?" Ava asked, her voice light and curious. I smiled, feeling a sense of clarity I hadn't had in months. "Next, I keep going. I keep building. But this time, it's on my terms." Over the next few weeks, I kept my focus on the business. I worked hard, but I also started to take time for myself. I reached out to old friends like Ava and made an effort to reconnect with the people who had supported me along the way. I took small steps to heal both personally and professionally. But it wasn't all easy. There were still moments when I felt the anger creeping back, moments when I remembered what Chloe had done to me. But I stopped myself each time. I couldn't keep letting her have that power over me. One evening, as I wrapped up for the day, I stared at the numbers on my screen. The business was growing, slowly but steadily. The road ahead was long, but I was finally on the right path. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't trying to get revenge. I was just living. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like enough. I couldn't help but notice the shift. For the first time in months, I wasn't struggling to keep up. My business was growing, as the deals I'd worked so hard for were finally falling into place. It felt like everything I'd sacrificed for was starting to pay off. But then there was Chloe. I hadn't heard from her in weeks. I thought maybe it was for the best, her out of my life and me finally moving forward. But somehow I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. It wasn't until the phone call came that I realized just how much I had left behind. "Tyler, it's Ava," she said, her voice tight with concern. "You need to hear this." "Hear what?" I asked, sitting up in my chair. I wasn't sure what I was about to hear, but I could tell from her tone it wasn't good. "It's about Chloe," Ava continued. "She's in trouble, bad trouble." "What do you mean?" I felt a knot form in my stomach. She's lost everything. Her company's in a mess. And well, Damien left her. I felt the floor beneath me shift, like the ground had been yanked away. Damien. Chloe had built her life around him. They were the golden couple, the power couple. And now, just like that, he was gone? "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, there's more. She's facing a scandal. One of her clients has accused her of fraud. The press is all over it. She's a mess, Tyler." I leaned back in my chair, my heart racing. I wanted to feel satisfaction after everything she had done to me. I should have. But instead, all I felt was something else. Maybe pity? Maybe I was finally realizing how hollow revenge really was. "I didn't think she'd go that far," I muttered under my breath. "I didn't think she could fall so far." "I don't know how she's going to come back from this," Ava said quietly. "But I wanted you to know. She's in pieces, Tyler. She's reached out to a few people asking for help, but I pressed, the weight of the situation settling in. She's got no one left to turn to. And Tyler, she's been asking about you." "Me?" I frowned, disbelief creeping in. "Why? After everything she did?" "I don't know, but she's been trying to reach out. I think she realizes now she's lost everything, including the people who really cared about her." I didn't know what to say. Chloe's life was crashing down, and I couldn't decide whether I felt vindicated or just numb. "What are you going to do?" Ava asked, breaking my silence. I stared out the window, my mind racing. This was it. This was the moment where I had the power to do something. To let her feel the weight of her actions or show her the mercy she never showed me. "I don't know yet," I said, running a hand through my hair. I can't figure out what the right thing is. She deserves everything that's happening to her, doesn't she?" Ava was quiet for a moment before answering. "Yes. But you're not like her, Tyler. You've worked hard to be the person you are. You've grown. So don't let her ruin that for you." Her words hit harder than I expected. I didn't want to be like Chloe. I didn't want to be consumed by anger or revenge. I had worked too hard to let myself fall back into that darkness. But it was hard to ignore the temptation to make her feel what I'd felt. Betrayed, crushed, abandoned. But as I sat there, I realized something. My success wasn't about her. It wasn't about proving anything to her. It was about me, about building a future that was mine and mine alone. I didn't need Chloe to validate my worth. I could feel the shift inside me, and it was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. For the first time, I wasn't letting her define me. I didn't need to take advantage of her downfall to feel good about myself. "I'm not going to do anything, Ava," I said finally, my voice steady. "I'm going to let her deal with her mess. I'm not getting dragged back into her world." "Good," she replied, relief evident in her tone. "That's the Tyler I know." The phone call ended, and I sat in the silence, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over me. I had made the right choice. I didn't need to stoop to her level. I was above it now. For the first time, I felt like I was finally in control of my career, my life, and my emotions. And maybe, just maybe, I had learned something important from all of this. Revenge wasn't worth it. It never had been. It was a late night when I got the message. The phone buzzed on the table in front of me, the screen lighting up with a name I hadn't seen in months, Chloe. I stared at it for a long time, my finger hovering over the screen. I had made peace with her being out of my life, yet here she was again, trying to reinsert herself. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave it unanswered and keep moving forward. But another part, the part I hated, was curious. What does she want now? Swipe the message open. Tyler, I need to talk to you. Please. I've made a mess of everything. I was wrong. Can we meet? I felt my pulse quicken. This wasn't just her usual casual text. This was something different. I had heard the regret in her voice before, but this was real. I could feel it through the words. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat there, staring at the message, the weight of everything that had happened between us pressing down on my chest. She had betrayed me. She had used me. And now, she wanted forgiveness? Was that even possible? I leaned back in my chair, running my hands through my hair. Why now? Why when things are finally starting to go right? The phone buzzed again, interrupting my thoughts. Another message from Chloe. Please, Tyler, I know I don't deserve your time. I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry. But I can't keep living with this guilt. You were the one person who truly believed in me. I've lost everything, and I don't know who else to turn to. I swallowed hard. I couldn't deny that part of me wanted to reach out and comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But I also knew that if I did that, I'd be falling back into the same pattern that had hurt me so much before. I was still angry. I was still hurt. But there was something else now, too. Something that had taken root over the months since I'd cut her out of my life. Indifference. Chloe had lost her hold on me. I had built something for myself, something that didn't depend on her or anyone else. I had built it alone. Still, a small part of me wondered if forgiveness was possible. Could someone really change? Could Chloe change? I grabbed my jacket and walked out the door, heading to the coffee shop where we used to meet. The thought of seeing her again made my stomach twist, but I needed answers. I needed to know if this was real or if it was just another game she was playing. When I walked in, I saw her sitting at a table in the back, her eyes downcast. She didn't even notice me at first, lost in her own thoughts. I almost turned around and walked out right then, but I stayed. I had to face this. I had to know. Chloe, I said, my voice steady but laced with caution. She looked up, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed. The confidence I once saw in her was gone, replaced with something ... smaller, something broken. Tyler, she stopped herself, taking a deep breath. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just ... I needed to see you. I've messed everything up and now The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Chloe's downfall wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was real. Public scandal was brewing, and her lies were all starting to unravel. She had been playing everyone, manipulating the situation, but now the truth was spilling out in the open. I sat in my office, staring at the screen, a mix of disbelief and satisfaction washing over me. The articles were everywhere. Chloe Matthews' marketing agency under investigation for fraud. Damning evidence surfaces in high-profile case. The names were changing, but the pattern was the same. Chloe, desperate for success, had taken shortcuts, cut deals, and twisted the truth to climb to the top. My phone buzzed with a message from Ava. Tyler, have you seen the news about Chloe? Her words were blunt, but there was a weight to them I couldn't ignore. I texted back quickly. I've seen it. This is it, right? It's all falling apart for her. Ava replied almost immediately. Yeah. I don't know if I feel sorry for her or not. But it's big. It's all over social media, all over the news. She can't hide anymore. I felt a rush of emotions. For so long, I had been living in the shadow of her manipulation, her betrayal. But now, I was the one on top. I had built my empire from nothing. I had worked for every inch of progress, and now I had the power. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt something shift inside. Me. Something darker. Revenge? Satisfaction? Maybe both. After everything she had done, part of me wanted to expose her for the world to see, to make sure everyone knew just how far she had gone. She deserved it, right? She had used me, lied to me, made me feel worthless. But then, another part of me hesitated. Was this really what I wanted? To tear her down the way she'd torn me down? Was that the person I wanted to become? I leaned back in my chair, staring at my phone. Chloe had been the one who started all this, but now I was the one with the power to finish it. But should I? Should I expose her? Or should I just step back and let karma take its course? The phone buzzed again. This time, it was Chloe herself. I almost didn't pick up. But then I remembered how desperate she'd been. How she'd tried to manipulate me. How she'd used me to get ahead. I tapped the screen, accepting the call. Tyler, her voice cracked through the phone, and I could hear the desperation. She didn't sound like the confident, manipulative woman I had known. She sounded ... broken. Tyler, please. I need your help. I didn't say anything. My heart was pounding, but I was careful not to show it. Couldn't let her see how much control one now had. You're the only one who can help me, Tyler. I messed up. I made mistakes, and now it's all crashing down. People are turning on me. I don't know what to do. I could feel the satisfaction rising in my chest. Chloe, the one who had always been so sure of herself, so smug, was now pleading with me. It was almost poetic. What do you want from me, Chloe? I asked, my voice cold, more distant than I wanted it to be. You're on your own now. Made your bed? Should have thought about the consequences before you lied your way to the top. I never meant for it to go this far, she said quickly. You have to believe me. I made mistakes, but I'm not that person anymore. I've changed, Tyler. I've learned. You're still the same person, Chloe. I cut her off. You always will be. You used people to get ahead. You used me. And now, everything's falling apart, just like I knew it would. Please, I'm begging you, she pleaded. I need you. Help me, Tyler. Just this once. I let out a long breath, closing my eyes. Part of me wanted to say yes, to throw her a lifeline, to be the person I used to be. But that part of me was long gone. You don't get to use me anymore, Chloe, I said quietly, but firmly. Not now, not ever again. The silence on the other end of the line felt heavy. I could practically hear her scrambling for words, but I wasn't listening anymore. There was nothing left to say. I'll figure it out, she finally whispered, her voice thick with defeat. I guess I deserve this. You do? I replied, my voice cold. Good luck, Chloe. Maybe you'll learn something from all of this. Maybe not. I hung up before she could say anything else, sitting back in my chair, staring at the screen. And just like that, it was over. I had the power now, and I had made my decision. Chloe's downfall wasn't my doing. It wasn't about revenge. It was just karma. Her lies had caught up with her, and there was nothing I could do to fix that. But for the first time, I didn't want to. I didn't need to tear her down. I had already built something stronger. I stood outside the coffee shop, my heart pounding in my chest. I hadn't seen Chloe in months, and the thought of facing her again brought up a mix of emotions. Anger, confusion, but mostly an overwhelming sense of disappointment. I told myself I wasn't doing this for revenge. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to forgive her. But I couldn't go on living with this gnawing feeling in my gut. I needed closure. I needed to stand up for myself, once and for all. When I walked in, I spotted her immediately. She was sitting by the window, staring out at the rain, looking smaller than I remembered. There was none of that fake confidence, that smug expression she used to wear. She looked lost. I took a deep breath and walked up to her. She turned at the sound of my footsteps, and for a moment we just stared at each other, the silence hanging heavy between us. Tyler, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I didn't think you'd come. I pulled out the chair and sat down, not bothering with small talk. I came because we need to talk. No more lies, Chloe, no more pretending. She winced at my words, but there was no anger in her eyes, just guilt. I'm sorry, Tyler. I've said that 100 times already, but I don't know what else to say. I've messed everything up. I've ruined everything. I stared at her, trying to steady the anger that still bubbled up inside me. I didn't want to hate her, but it was hard not to. I had trusted her with everything. She was my friend. She was the one person I thought I could count on. You ruined everything, Chloe, I said, my voice tight with emotion. You lied to me. You used me. You took everything I had and threw it away like it didn't matter. Her eyes filled with tears, and she bit her lip as if trying to hold back the flood. I never meant to hurt you, Tyler. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could control everything, but I lost myself. I didn't see how far I was going until it was too late. I leaned forward, feeling the weight of the words that had been sitting on my chest for months. It wasn't just business for you, Chloe. You treated me like I was nothing more than a tool to help you get ahead. I gave you everything, and I cut myself off, not wanting to give her more of my anger. I believed in you, and you just threw it all away. I didn't know how to fix it, she said, her voice breaking. I kept thinking that if I just kept moving forward, everything would fall into place, but it never did. I can't undo what I've done, Tyler. I can't take it back. I felt my chest tighten. It was pain in her voice, real pain, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered everything she'd taken from me, the trust, the friendship, the years I had spent believing in her. I'm not asking for an apology, Chloe, I said, my voice softer now. I'm not asking for anything from you. I'm just ... done. Done with the lies, done with the games. I have to move on. And I'm not going to let you drag me back into your mess. She nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I understand. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Tyler. I never did. I was silent for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. But I need to let go. I need to move on with my life, and I need you to do the same. I don't know how to start over, she said, her voice barely audible now. I don't know where to go from here. You start by owning up to what you did, I replied, my eyes meeting hers. You face the consequences, and you rebuild. But don't expect me to be part of that anymore. You made your choices. Chloe stared at me for a long time, her tears still falling. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but nothing came out. She just nodded, defeated. I stood up, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. This was it, the closure I had been waiting for. I didn't need her to fix things. I didn't need her to make up for the damage she'd caused. I hope you find what you're looking for, Chloe, I said, my voice steady now, but it's not going to be with me. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop, my heart lighter than it had been in months. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about making her feel the pain she'd caused me. It was about me, about finding peace for myself and letting go of everything that had held me back. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I sat at my desk, the evening light casting long shadows across the room. The papers in front of me were untouched, my thoughts drifting away from the numbers and deadlines. It had been months since the fallout with Chloe. Months since I had made the decision to walk away from everything she had tried to drag me into. It's over, I thought. Not just with Chloe, but with the anger, the obsession with proving her wrong. I had built something real for myself, something that didn't need her approval. It had taken a while to get here, but now that I was here, I felt something unexpected. Peace. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes drifting to the window. The city lights were faint in the distance, flickering like little stars scattered across the night sky. Everything felt still. For the first time in a long time, there was no noise in my head, no burning desire to get back at someone. The weight I had been carrying, the burden of revenge, was gone. It didn't matter anymore. A message pinged on my phone. It was from Ava. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Simple, but I could tell there was more behind the question. I typed back better, much better. "You've been through a lot. You deserve to take a break, you know." I smiled at her words. She was right. I had spent so long focused on getting even, on making sure Chloe knew what she had done to me, that I had forgotten to focus on what really mattered. Me. Another notification came in, this time from a news app. Chloe's name flashed across the headline. Chloe Matthews' agency collapses as accusations of fraud grow. I opened the article. It was a mess. The scandal had spiraled out of control. There were photos of Chloe teary-eyed, lost, sitting in front of a camera, giving a statement I could barely read through the blur of shame. She had lost everything. Her business, her reputation, the people who once trusted her. And I couldn't help but feel a hollow pit in my stomach. Is this what I wanted? The anger I'd once felt had burned out, but now there was something else. Sadness. I remembered who Chloe used to be, who I thought she wasn't now, to see her like this. It didn't feel like victory. It just felt empty. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from her. My heart skipped a beat, and I stared at the screen for a moment, unsure whether I should pick up. I hit the green button before I could talk myself out of it. Tyler, her voice was thin, cracked. I don't expect you to help me. I don't even know why I'm calling. I don't know where else to turn. I didn't know what to say. The Chloe I had known was gone. The confident, manipulative woman who had used me to climb her way to the top was gone. In her place was someone broken, desperate, someone who had nothing left. Chloe, I started, my voice steady but calm. I can't fix this for you. You're going to have to face what you've done. I know, she said softly. I know. Tiller, I have lost everything. And I can't help but think about how you warned me. How you were the only person who ever really cared, and I. She trailed off, clearly struggling with the weight of her own regret. There it was, the apology I had waited for, the acknowledgement of her mistakes. But it didn't feel like a victory anymore. It felt like an empty gesture, a part of me that had finally healed. I'm sorry for what I did, she continued, almost whispering. But I don't know how to fix it. I don't think you can, Chloe, I said, feeling the finality in my words. But you have to try. For yourself. Not part of your life anymore. You need to move on. She didn't say anything for a long time. I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line, the weight of everything hanging between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice smaller than I remembered. Goodbye, Tyler. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment, the phone still pressed to my ear. The silence felt heavy, like it carried everything that had happened between us. Everything she had done. Everything I had fought for. But now it was over. And I was done with it. I put the phone down and took a deep breath, my hands resting on the desk. For the first time, I wasn't looking for closure or revenge. I wasn't looking to see Chloe fall or fail. I had let that part of me go. Letting go, that was the real victory. Letting go of the need to prove something, letting go of the anger, the hurt. It was the hardest part, but it was also the most freeing. I stood up, stretching my legs, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. My business was doing well. It's finally in control of my life, my future. And for the first time, I could honestly say that I didn't need anything from Chloe. Her life was her own. Mine was mine. I couldn't believe how far I had come. Sitting in the small cafe, Megan across from me, the sound of our laughter filling the air. It was hard to imagine that just a few months ago I had been consumed by bitterness and the need for revenge. Back then, I couldn't see beyond the anger I had toward Chloe. The frustration, the feeling of betrayal that gnawed at me day after day. Now, things were different. My business was flourishing. I was in control. And most importantly, I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore. I had moved on. I hadn't even realized it until this very moment. You seem distant, Megan said, breaking my thoughts, her eyes searching mine. I smiled, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders as I looked at her. I was just thinking about how much things have changed. She raised an eyebrow. In a good way, I hope? Definitely, I said, my voice warm. I'm in a good place now, a place I didn't think I'd ever get to. Megan smiled back, her presence grounding me in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. You've worked hard for it. You deserve it. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the comfort of being around someone who didn't expect anything from me. Megan had a way of making me feel like I didn't need to prove myself. She liked me for who I was, not for what I could give her, or what she could take from me. There was no pressure, no expectations, just a connection. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, I said, my voice quieter. How I used to be, how much I wanted revenge, how much I needed to prove something to Chloe. Megan's expression softened, her eyes never leaving mine. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You're not that person anymore, Tyler. Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. I wasn't the same person. I had changed. I had spent so much time focused on Chloe, on getting back at her, that I had neglected what really mattered, my growth, my future. I think I spent so much time chasing what I thought would give me closure that I forgot what true peace felt like, I said, my gaze falling to the table. It wasn't until I let go of that anger that I realized how much I had been holding on to. Megan reached across the table, her hand brushing mine. Letting go is the hardest part, but it's also the most freeing. I nodded, squeezing her hand. You've helped me realize that. I've been holding on to things I don't need anymore. I don't need to go back to who I was. She smiled gently. You've grown. You're stronger than the person who was stuck in all that. I leaned forward, my heart light, and it feels amazing. It's like I'm finally free. There was a silence between us, but it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that felt comfortable, like we didn't need to fill the space with words. I'm proud of you, Tyler, Megan said softly. You've come so far, and I know you're only going to keep going higher. Her words filled me with a sense of warmth, and I couldn't help but feel grateful. I had fought so hard for success, but now I realized that success wasn't just about career or proving someone wrong. It was about building something real, something meaningful. And with Megan, I felt like I had found that. I'm glad I'm here with you, I said, my voice sincere. I think I've finally figured out what really matters. She squeezed my hand, a quiet understanding passing between us. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that change you the most, she said, her voice steady but gentle. And you've learned them well. I smiled at her, feeling something deep and real stirring inside me. I wasn't just moving uni, was growing, evolving into the person I had always hoped I'd become. Looking back, I realized that everything I had gone through had brought me here. To this moment. To Megan. To a future I was excited about. Not because I had outdone anyone, but because I was finally at peace with who I was. I think this is the beginning of something good, I said, my heart full. It's just the beginning, Megan replied with a smile. And it's going to be amazing. I stood at the window, watching the rain fall softly against the glass. The world outside felt distant, almost dreamlike, as I reflected on how much had changed. It wasn't long ago that I was consumed by Chloe's betrayal. My every thought focused on getting back at her. Spent so much time angry, so much energy trying to make her feel the pain I had felt. But now, as I looked back on everything, I realized that those months of rage had been nothing but a waste. I didn't need to prove anything to her, or to anyone. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a message from Ava. Hey Tyler, how are you holding up? I smiled at the simplicity of the message. Ava had always been there for me, supporting me even when I didn't deserve it. I quickly typed back, I'm good. Finally feeling like everything's falling into place, she replied almost immediately, I'm so proud of you. You've come a long way. I stared at her message for a moment, a warmth spreading through me. Ava had been one of the few constants in my life, and now, with everything falling into place, I felt like I was on solid ground. But as I typed a response, my mind wandered back to Chloe. I'd heard the whispers about her, how her business had collapsed, how she was struggling to keep her head above water. Her name still showed up in the news from time to time. Each article painting a picture of the woman who had once seemed unstoppable, now reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale. I could feel a strange sense of peace settle over me. Chloe had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. And me? I was finally free. The phone buzzed again, and this time it was a call. Chloe's name flashed across the screen. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to answer, to hear her out one last time, but I knew better now. I had nothing left to say to her. I let it ring out. I didn't need to hear her apologize anymore. I didn't need her validation. The truth was, I was already whole without her. Typed back to Ava, thank you. I'm in a good place now. I've realized something this whole time. I thought I needed revenge, but what I needed was closure. And I've got that now. Ava's response came quickly. You're right. But sometimes the best revenge is just moving on. I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the rain once more. There was no anger left in me, no bitterness toward Chloe. There was only the quiet satisfaction of knowing that I had grown. I had built something from the ground up, not out of spite, but out of the simple desire to succeed on my own terms. This is my victory, I thought. Not because Chloe had lost everything, but because I had learned to let go. It wasn't just about proving others wrong anymore. It was about proving to myself that I was capable of more than I had ever imagined. It was about finding my own way, without the weight of her betrayal holding me back. Chloe had fallen, and her mistakes had caught up with her. But I was different. I had risen above it. That to me was justice. I put my phone down and stood up, walking to the window once more. The rain had stopped and the clouds were beginning to part, letting a few rays of sunshine through. It felt symbolic, like the world had finally cleared up. The storm was over, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next, not as someone who had been broken by betrayal, but as someone who had found peace in moving on.